welcome back to the year of the book, where we are documenting our writing journey and all the bumps along the way. Today, I wanted to talk about how I am building a writing routine that works for me as a neurodivergent person. So, I was diagnosed with autism and then ADHD separately earlier this year. And gaining this perspective about myself has helped me to make some adjustments to my writing routine to better accommodate my strengths and my struggles. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Now, as always, this is just my perspectives and my experience, so please bear that in mind. There's huge variety in how neurodiversity shapes people's experiences, strengths, and struggles. So for me, there are two main things that I struggle with that affect my ability to write and to maintain a writing routine. So the first is overwhelm, and the second is what I might call like crash and burn, all or nothing, right? So the overwhelm I do associate more with autism, but I can also get overwhelmed due to ADHD as well, especially in terms of task initiation and getting task paralysis, where I get so overwhelmed that I can't start something. But I also get like sensory overwhelm. I get really drained and exhausted from doing kind of activities that I have to do every day, things like getting the kids fed and put to bed, things like that. And these shape my ability to write. The crash and burn, all or nothing, is an ADHD thing. So I throw myself into a new project with loads of enthusiasm and commitment, and then I'll pour a lot of energy and attention into it. And then at some point, that motivation, that energy just like drains away. It's like there's a hole in the bucket and it's gone. And then either it just fizzles out or I just want to abandon the project. So again, this affects my ability to maintain a consistent writing routine. So first up, there are some things that I already knew about myself before I was diagnosed. So at the start of the year, when I was starting my writing journey, and I was thinking about building like a structure for myself. So firstly, I knew that I needed to build some kind of routine. But I noticed that a lot of writing routines, habits, and advice that I saw in other videos felt like completely unrealistic for me. So things like write something every day or write 1,000 words every time you write. I looked at those things and I just knew way before diagnosis even that these things were never going to work for me. And actually the reason I knew this was not from any prior writing experience. It was from other areas of my life where I had tried and failed to build consistent habits. So for example, eating healthily or building an exercise or a workout routine, where I would suddenly like find a new healthy eating plan and I'm like, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this every day. You know, I've bought in the past lots of different meal plans, workout plans, stuff like that. Everything goes into it. And then at some point, no, it's gone. We're not doing that anymore. Let's do something else, right? That's what your ADHD brain is doing. So even though I actually, at that point, I had no idea I had ADHD, but I did know that I struggled to build and maintain habits. That should have been a sign. That should have been a sign. Anyway, so I knew that. So I knew that those sort of standard bits of advice weren't going to work for me. So from the very start of my writing journey, before I knew that I was neurodivergent, I did know that I needed to build a routine that would be able to accommodate these things that I struggled with. So from the start, I focused on making myself a flexible and a sustainable writing routine. So what does that mean for me? So sustainable for me means not writing every day. I knew that I would not be able to maintain the commitment and the expectation of writing every day. Firstly, you know, I work nearly full time. I've got small kids at home, all that other stuff going on. But secondly, I knew that I need physical activity and I need rest on other evenings in the week in order to be regulated and functional. So for me, sustainability was more important than that sort of regularity or everyday sort of stuff. Sustainable writing routine for me also means something that I can be okay dropping if and when I need to, according to things like overwhelm, being able to accommodate that. And sustainable also for me means something that's not necessarily goal oriented, such as 1,000 words a day, and is not too demanding, such as 1,000 words a day. Okay, so for me, that meant writing twice a week, primarily on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. It means writing when I'm away from home by myself, and it means not writing when I'm away from home with my family. So that's what sustainable means for me at the moment. Sometimes I'm writing 3 times a week, sometimes I'm writing once a week, some weeks I'm not writing at all. However, I have been able to maintain that for the past 7 months. Okay. Now, what does flexible mean for me? So, flexible means that within those writing sessions, there are usually no predetermined goals or expectations, as I already said. So there are goals if there's like a deadline for a submission window that I want to send something to, or if I feel really close to finishing a story, I'll have that as my goal, right? And it's an easily achievable goal because I know I'm nearly finished, but that's fine. So flexible also means that those writing sessions are not just writing, but include all writing adjacent activities, which for me means looking for submission opportunities for my short stories. It means researching, maybe for background or context of stories. It means planning. It means making notes. It means outlining. It means editing. Sometimes it also means reading within the genre that I'm writing in and taking some notes, all that stuff. And I tend to do those activities, either sometimes I need to do them, but I also do them when I'm feeling too overwhelmed or too drained to write. So for me, those adjacent tasks are like an easier entry point into the writing session than thinking I need to sit down and actually write creatively. It makes it easier for me. So from the start, I tried to build a routine that was flexible and sustainable. I already knew that I needed that. Now let's talk about what I've changed since I've been diagnosed. So there are 3 quite practical changes I want to talk through. And also in making this video and planning it, I realized that for me, experimenting with my writing routine to accommodate myself as a neurodivergent person is actually really useful as a newly diagnosed person, because my writing is an area of my life that largely I can control and is quite autonomous from other people and also from other bits of my life. So that means it's a great space to experiment and try out different accommodations and things that might support myself better without having to navigate the social or professional or relational aspects of, say, accommodations in your work life or your family life. What have I changed in my writing routine? So the first one is super easy and practical, and that is that I have largely stopped writing at my desk. Now, I realise that because I sit at my desk all day for work. I'm an academic and I work from home, so I am at a desk the vast majority of the day. And work is often an overwhelming experience for me. And going back to that desk in the office in the evening to do my writing, it often kind of felt like a punishment in some way. My body felt like it was going back to work, right? Even though I wasn't, I was going to do something that I enjoy, but it created a blocker for me. Well, sometimes you'll see in my videos, I'm lying on the bed, I'm so overwhelmed from doing dinner and bedtime with the kids. And I'm like, oh my God, I just don't want to get up from the bed to go and write. So write where feels good for you. I started to just bring the laptop to the bed, or I started doing the writing on the sofa some evenings. And that has somehow changed my mindset, and it has made the task initiation a lot easier for me. And that's what I was struggling with in going back to the desk. It wasn't the actual writing in this case. It was that I felt so overwhelmed and so exhausted that I couldn't conjure up the energy and motivation to start the task, even if I knew that it would be rewarding and enjoyable. I wasn't able to start it. So sometimes that meant that I didn't start it at all. But that very simple switch of just doing the writing somewhere else has really helped with that. The second switch I made is a more difficult but quite a profound one for me. And that is that I've started trying to follow my motivation and my energy instead of fighting it. I realized that as someone with ADHD, I have these peaks and troughs of dopamine. I jump full on into something and then I give it everything, like I already said, and then it just loses its shine and I hate it and I want to move on, right? Before I was diagnosed, I did not know that this was what is happening. I just thought, I can't do stuff. I can't get through things. I can't get through life. I can't build and sustain healthy habits. I can't consistently do the things that I actually really want to do and benefit from doing. I just thought, I can't do those things. I can't do it, right? I'm rubbish, basically. This is how you end up feeling. And I feel kind of emotional talking about it, right? But now that I know that I have ADHD, and this is like a very common, if not universal thing that people with ADHD experience, that has enabled me to actually accept that that is what is happening. It doesn't stop it from happening, right? But I find that I can recognize it and I can accept that that is what is happening. I'm like, okay, here we go. Now I want to like abandon this project or whatever, right? And now that I know that that is what's happening, I'm able to let it just sort of wash over me a little bit more easily, rather than being like, no, fight it, you've got to do it, you've got to push through, even though everything is really hard all the time, right? I don't need to do that. I can let that sort of trough, that crash and burn happen, and know that it doesn't mean that the entire writing project is abandoned, right? And I think that, especially because I write short stories, right? This is why short stories are great. I do have the flexibility to dive into something else if I want and follow the dopamine on that for a little bit. And maybe I'll circle around to the other thing. Maybe I won't. And that's okay. That I will have these natural peaks and troughs in my energy and in my motivation, and that will shape what I'm able to do in some of my writing sessions, but it doesn't define my entire writing experience. It doesn't define me and it doesn't limit me in the same way as it did before I realized this is what is happening. So that's a big one. And following my energy and motivation also means just recognizing the overwhelm and calling time on it sometimes, and knowing that, you know what, tonight I'm not going to be able to write. It's not happening, right? Sometimes I'm just going to go and lie on the bed and doom scroll, or I'm just going to go for a walk or take a long shower or binge on Netflix, and I will write another day. And again, doing that does not mean the whole project has failed and over, right? So in my earlier videos, you'll often see me struggling to begin and get through the writing session. And you won't see quite as much of that these days, because when I'm struggling like that now, I'm not writing and I'm not filming. I'm trying to recover instead, knowing that I will write another day, I will film another day, and that's okay. And the last thing, and it's definitely related to the point about motivation and energy, is I've started to consciously try to move away from the idea of linear progression as the best or the only form of progress in writing. So I did have the belief, I don't know if it was a conscious belief, but I believed that I had to plan the story, write the story, edit the story, finish the story, submit the story, and then start a new story, right? And once I started writing a story, I felt like now I have to finish it. And again, it goes back to ADHD, because I had the idea in my head, well, if I don't finish it, I'll never finish it. It will go away like all the other things. You'll never do it, right? And I now realize that, firstly, this is just not a necessary way of doing my writing, especially when you write short stories, because you can just dip in and out of them like so easily in a way that's much more difficult to do if you're writing a novel. So it's just not necessary. And secondly, I realized that having that expectation of this linear progress was creating a blocker for me at times, in that the demand or expectation of following that linear line of progression became too much. I would sort of suddenly abandon it, thinking I would like struggle, abandon, basically, and so on. So I would feel like, oh my god, I have to keep finishing this one, or I have to write this story this week, even though I don't feel like writing this story, even though I feel like writing another story. No, it's just not true. It's not true for anyone. But it was especially important for me. And once I let go of this idea, this helped me instead to, as I already talked about, follow my energy and motivation instead, and move through my stories in a way that works for me. And, I found that there have been stories that I've struggled with that I've ended up just leaving. And I still had that worry in the back of my head, like, oh, I better never finish that. But, one day it comes time to write and I'm like, oh, I feel like going back to that one, and then I can finish it, right? So that is everything. Those are the switches that I've made. I'm still pretty early on in my journey of learning, what helps me to navigate writing and life as a late diagnosed neurodivergent person. So still a lot of learning to go, but I really hope that this was helpful. I'm going to link a couple of creators in the comments who have some good videos on this topic, Deanna Scribbles and MJ James. They're both authors as well. And when I was planning this video and making some notes, I checked out their videos on this, and there's actually a lot of similarity there. But they bring their own unique experiences and perspectives, so I really encourage you to check out their videos as well. If this was helpful, do give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!